Hello and welcome. I have a much smaller stash enhancement section this week, but I do have a stash enhancement. I say week, I mean fortnight obviously. However, before I do my tiny bit of stash enhancement, I do have some frozen whips to show you guys. There is one foe which I think I could have shown you last episode and I forgot about because I got very excited by all of the woolly things I got to show you. So, I finished the vest that I was re-knitting for my sister. She had tried to amend the design and she'd done a really good job, but there'd been a couple of places where it hadn't quite worked properly, and so we did this whole kind of fitting and trying stuff out, and I did lots of maths and played around with it and finally finished it. Because I finished it, I gave it to her, so I don't have it here to show you guys, but I did ask her to pose for a photo. So fingers crossed, you will now get to see a photo of my sister wearing the vest. As well as finishing that off, I have been working on a few of my works in progress. The first one I'm going to show you is this one. So, I showed you guys that I'd started knitting on some yarn that I bought almost immediately because I decided that I had too much stash, and rather than feeling guilty about it and trying to work through all of my stash in order or something crazy, I was just going to pick the things that made me happiest and knit on them. Because why wouldn't I? It's a hobby, it's for fun, it's for love, it just would be crazy to do it otherwise. I am a little bit crazy though, so you know. So last time I had completed the heel and I got to here and I have finished the first sock. So this is what that gorgeous yarn knits up like. Now, admittedly, I don't use a full 50 grams to knit a sock. So you can just sort of see that it has started to pull some of the blue through in that yarn as the toe comes in. But it mostly is turquoise with a little bit of the deep blue, and I have a slight mess of blue yarn left over. Which, if I hold it up, you can see kind of goes from light blue in the middle to a darker blue at the outside. I'm not sure how well that shows. Lighting is an issue with me that I have yet to fully suss out, although I do have my fancy gizmo here trying to blend out some of the shadows. So yes, this is what it looks like, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I've used the OMG Spacious heel, which, for what it is, I thought was a bit expensive, but then I guess I've been ruined by the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern, which is only $1 and has a lot in it. So we'll see. If it makes a big difference, then I'll be a fan, but if it doesn't, then I'll just be like, well, that was a bit of a waste of money. But we'll see. I mean, I can see before blocking already that it does kind of stick out a bit more, so that makes sense that this length is going to be bigger, and it's got a bit more to it over here, so with blocking that should all open out. But we'll see what happens. But yarn wise, I think that's absolutely awesome, and I love the fact that if I sort of wear them in shoes, you'll just see these bright orange socks, and then actually as a sock I've got a bit of rainbow. However, I did not stop there because second sock syndrome is not something that I suffer from. So I can also show you guys the second sock! Yes, I have nearly finished the pair. So I've got sort of that much to go. And you can see how John's dyeing. If I just fold this the other way around, there we go. Just need to get my needles sorted out. Fold the sock the same way. So you can see how John's dyeing has done a really, really good job of making these a matching gradient pair. Yeah, it's all matched up where the colour changes happen and everything has all worked perfectly across. I mean, it's a bit tricky to try and show you it, isn't it? But I mean, you can see that they are basically going to be a really, really well matching pair, which is kind of interesting because I don't normally worry about that, and in fact I often embrace the non-matchingness. I tend not to wear matching socks, but I quite like the idea of having these as a matching pair, and that is easyknits.co.uk. This was a custom gradient, but he does do a whole bunch of different things. This was on his sock base. It's 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon. And yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend his gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. And there we go, really. I don't think there's much else to show you guys. The actual sock itself, other than the heel, I followed the same construction as I did for my generic Fish Lips Kiss heel socks that I finished, which were the Red Admiral ones from Natural Born Dyers. So the ones that look striped, sort of the light and dark red. They weren't self-striping, but the pooling happened, and you know when it's slightly diagonal stripes, it was like that. Very nice. Which basically means it's a 2.25mm or US1 needle. I do 68 stitches. I've done them cuff down, which meant that I just was going to use as much yarn as I used rather than trying to use all the yarn up, but I don't particularly like a very long sock anyway, so I wouldn't have kept going, and I wanted orange at the cuff. I do usually 2 inches of ribbing, but I got a bit carried away on the first sock, so it's 2¼ inches. I make it up to 6 inches, do the heel, and then I knit about 8 inches from the back of the heel to then start the toe. The toe and the heel both are from the OMG, Spacious OMG pattern, but it's just a stockinette sock with a couple of inches of ribbing. For the rest of it, because I quite like just a plain stockinette sock, and it makes it a really nice project to just, because I can switch off and I have to pay attention for a little bit, and then I can switch off and I can pay attention for a little bit. So it's good to have it for TV knitting and things like that. So number 2 is going to be this one. Not the cushions. Okay, so let's see. This is my Corridon jumper, for those of you who haven't seen it before. And I was working on my sleeve last time I recorded. And it may look a bit strange because, for those of you with very good memories, you might remember that oh no, you wouldn't remember this, of course, because this marks when I last showed you it. But since I showed you it last, I knit to about here. And then I did the sleeve shaping to about here, and then I realised it was wrong. Because I'd forgotten that I was knitting at a gauge that's smaller than the pattern, and that I'd worked out how much my gauge was going to expand when I did the wet blocking, but then because it said knit to so many inches and then do the shaping, I hadn't modified that to be in my gauge. So I had to rip it back, rip out pretty much all of the arm shaping and a few inches of just the sleeve width, knitting plain, well in pattern but no decreases, and then redo all of the sleeve cap. But I did. I finished it. So fingers crossed this is going to come out the right size. Now if I just hold it on my arm and put the shoulder up at my neckline or what have you, it is just a smidge short on the wrist. Where's the There we go. But that's right, because it's going to expand when I block it out. So this will then sort of block out down to a nice sweater length and sit on my shoulders. It's very exciting. So, having done that maths and re-knit a whole massive chunk of this jumper has been re-knit quite a lot, having had to re-knit an entire, I can't remember if it was the front, I think it was the back I did first, and then had to re-knit that completely because I realised that I hadn't taken into account wet blocking my swatch. Note to self, when you do that, and if you change gauge, go through the entire pattern and write on the entire pattern, or a photocopy of the entire pattern in my case, or print out the entire pattern, all your corrections for all the measurements, and do it right at the beginning, because otherwise you'll end up doing what I did and having to re-knit the whole thing. However, all I have to do now is just knit another copy of it, which I have started doing. So here is, and let me just check. I don't think I've quite finished the sleeve shaping. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 10, 15, 18. No, I have! I've literally just done the last of the arm shaping rows. So this is an increased row, the last row I did. So I've got, as you saw, about this much plain to do. And then I will have to do the sleeve shaping on this. And then I will have done the sleeves, the front and the back. Not finished, because then I will have to put them together. I think I seam a bit of it, and then I do a neckband. And then I've got the sort of toggle type thing to go through the neckband, which I would do in the contrast colour. I'm a little bit nervous because... Oh, actually, I'm not sure how I'm doing for yarn. I've got these two that I'm doing the rest of the sleeve in, and I should have enough to do the sleeve. I can't remember if I wound already... No, I don't think I did wind up another ball. So I think I have one more skein left, which means I'm fine. But in the back of my head I was thinking, oh, this is all the yarn I've got left. But I don't think that's true. I think I've got another skein left. I did do all the maths, and it should be fine, but you know, I do make mistakes occasionally. And this is the first time I've kind of well, had a limited amount of wool to do a jumper. Last time I had way enough. I had loads left over afterwards because I bought massive balls of acrylic blend. But yeah, so I've got not much more to do on the sleeve on that, which is kind of cool. So I've got a fair bit done since I last saw you guys. I have had quite a bit of TV time. Dave from FO&I mentioned catching up on Flash and Arrow, and I realised that I'd started to watch them and then forgotten that I had access to them because my other half subscribed to Now TV, and that has some Sky channels on it, and they include Flash and Arrow, and they have some what they call box sets on there, which is like complete series. So I went on and I found seasons 2 and 3 of the Arrow and season 1 of the Flash as box sets, and then season 4 of the Arrow and season 2 of the Flash have started, so I'm watching those. So I caught up on all of that, and I had until the end of October to do all of my catching up because they only have them on for so long, and it's really annoying. But anyway, I managed to do it, so I had a lot of TV watching over a couple of weeks, and I therefore did a load of this knitting. It did also result in re-knitting somewhat, because, you know, when you're trying to do a complex kind of stay-in pattern and alternate skeins, and do increases and decreases, you do occasionally miss something, but nothing too major, and compared to having to rip back and re-knit massive chunks of it because of gauge problems, that was fine. I was like, no biggie. So yeah, so I've got quite a bit done. Number 3, which I thought I'd shown you, but I haven't. But I do have some progress after my last marker, so I may not have shown you, or I may be showing you it again and I just forgot to move the marker up. Who knows? But anyway, I suddenly suspect it was the latter option, so you may have seen this much progress already. I can't remember, and I'm not very good at remembering to move my progress keepers on after I've recorded. But it is my bag. It's my bag, baby. Which is, this is the front, this is the back, and then this is going to be the flap at the front, so you can imagine it. It's going to be folded up in half, like that, and then that folded over. And the last time I had the progress keeper on it is somewhere back here. I think I showed you this already, but it doesn't hurt to show you it again. I've not done anything much on it recently, so this is probably as much as I showed you last time, if I did. And what I will do is I will move the progress marker now, whilst I'm talking to you, so that I don't forget. Oh, that's an interesting colour. I wonder if it was always that colour. It kind of looks like it's tarnished slightly. Interesting. But anyway, pop that in my stitch there. So that is my little progress keeper now up there, so I know that I've shown you this. But yes, so this bag is the Cassiopeia bag, which is a free pattern on Ruairí. It's really, really straightforward stitch patterns. It makes this gorgeous, gorgeous fabric, and it is really, really straightforward to do, so I would wholeheartedly recommend this pattern. It's free and it's easy and it's awesome, and it makes you a little bag. The only thing I would say is that the stitch pattern for the back, which was called the bamboo stitch, I found took a long time, because you do a yarn over and then slip it over 2 knit stitches. And oh, it just took forever to get through. Now it might be because it was a bit boring and I was so much enjoying knitting on this, and I thought, oh, this is so pretty, and you get to see every so many rows, you get to see it changing and progressing, and this not so much. But I did get bored, but I've powered through, and I'm now just onto the front flap. But this has kind of taken a side seat again, because I was like, I want to knit on my pretty yarn. Now admittedly, this also uses extremely pretty yarn. This is the Great Barrier Reef colourway from F.O.&I on her Galen base. And the blues one is, I think it's Blue Lagoon or Dark Lagoon or something like that, on the Heather base, which doesn't exist anymore, from Natural Born Dyers. But they have this colourway on other bases. Both favourite dyes of mine, both make gorgeous yarn, and I do want to get this done, but I was like, I really want to get my jumper finished, and sock project needed to be happening, and I just felt like having a break from the bag again, basically. Not really much more to it. So, that's my whips at the moment, and I am working away on them. Stash enhancement wise, there is only one thing to show you guys, and that is this. Beautiful and surprisingly orange, who'd have thought, right? Although it actually has sort of reddy brown, orange, yellow, and pink and red in it. Now they're all orangey hues, so you know it's like that pinky orange or that reddy orange or that browny orange or that orangey brown kind of thing, so it all blends very nicely into this. I'm just holding it a bit closer, you can see all of the effect. So this is some hand spun, as you might be able to guess from looking at all the barber poling and everything going on. And I bought this from the Spinning Shack, I think it was she called herself. So I went to something called Derby Mini Maker Fair. It only happens one day a year, but it was absolutely brilliant fun. It's really aimed for anybody to be able to attend, which means it's suitable for kids, because they have stuff there that's suitable for young children to play with and interact with and learn about, but there's plenty of stuff there for adults to go and look at. Makers, and that term, to be a maker, often seems to apply to people playing around with electronics or computing or woodwork and that kind of thing in combination with those things. It often seems to have an electronics component to it. So if you've heard of things like the Raspberry Pi computer or the Arduino, these are all kind of tools that are supposed to be a bit cheaper than sort of buying professional kits, and it allows amateurs to play around with computing and electronics and programming hardware to do things. So you write software that can control hardware, and you make the hardware as well and stuff. However, that's not exclusively what it is. It's just the majority of it is that. It'd be a bit like kind of going to yarn festivals, the majority of it is about knitting, but you do get plenty of spinning and crochet and sometimes even weaving stuff happening around those kind of things. And in this case, making really does include anything, including crafts. So there was a lady there demonstrating her yarn bombing, and I signed up for that, and I think I told you about this already. And there was a lady spinning. Have I shown you? And now I think I've told you all this before as well, but I can't remember what date it was I went, so I can't remember if it was before or after the last podcast. But anyway, I bought myself a little skein. It's only something like 30 odd grams, but I thought it's really, really pretty. And similar to my rainbow handspun, which I said I was going to use sort of striped in a hat or something, I think I'll do the same with this. I'm having a major deja vu here, so I apologise if I've said this before. If I haven't, then that's fine, and you can just ignore my weird ramblings. And if I have, then I'm sorry. I'm not feeling particularly on form at the moment. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, because that is the last of my stash enhancement, and I can move on to community. And in community I usually talk a little bit about just what's going on for me anyway in life generally. So we have 2 cats here, and we still have 2 cats, and they're both well. But Ruairí, my ginger Tom, was having problems with his knee. I'm going to have to stop there. Okay, so I was in the middle of talking to you guys about what's going on when I saw Stitch being chased by a neighbour's cat through the garden. And because it's raining, I've got the back doors closed. And so I dashed out to make sure that he wasn't stuck and trapped by this cat and going to get attacked or anything. So I've seen the other cat off, and Stitch has been brought back inside to dry off, bless him. But he's not been out much recently, and he was desperate to go out, so I let him go out and run around for a bit. So yes, what's been going on? Ruairí was having some problems with his knee. So I took him to the vets, and unfortunately he said that he was going to have to operate on it. So he's had an operation last week, and at the moment he's in confinement. He's in a cage upstairs in our room. He's got one of those collars of shame on, cone of shame on, but he's doing well, which is awesome. But obviously all of that really it's been a bit difficult to say the least. It's just been really tricky, kind of dealing with how I feel and making sure that he's looked after, and not really knowing what I'm doing, and and I'm sure lots and lots of people out there will be able to relate in one way or another. So I've been a little bit not quite on form, as it were, a bit distracted, and that just means that I'm a little bit all over the place at the moment. So all kinds of things have happened. My routine that I've been establishing, that kind of started to buckle. My healthy eating, that went, and I just haven't been particularly cheerful. I've been a bit kind of down, not depressed, but I just haven't been bouncy, and I've been sort of watching a lot of TV, as I say, and that's part of it, was just kind of escaping and just kind of having to deal with this a little bit, and so yeah, so that's what's been going on. So if I've been showing you the same stuff again or whatever, I apologise. It was all in it was all in the right place to say this is what I need to talk to you guys about. But I'm having one of those things where I feel like I've done it all already. Yeah, I'm sure I haven't, but maybe I have, but maybe I haven't. I have this a lot. Never mind. If I was more organised, it would happen less, but I'm not, so it does. Right, just sorting out my hair from chasing the cat through the garden. That's a bit better. I'm not sure about the lighting either. I may just tweak that a little bit. There we go. Right, so the other part of community then is to do the questions from Topher. Number 8. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? Oh, this is good. I never actually read the next question, so you know, it's always a surprise when I read these. Oh, it's running through the garden, hissing at a cat. Has kind of left me feeling a bit disarrayed. So what profession other than my own? Well, that's an interesting question because, quite frankly, what's my profession? I've talked a bit about careers on here before. And I do have a tendency to sort of change careers every sort of 5 years or so. So chances are I will try a good few other professions, but who knows? I might still just be finding something that I then settle on. So things I would like to try. I have to admit that's tricky, because I've never been the kind of person that knows, oh, I want to do X, Y or Z. I've always been pootling along and then sort of find something finds me, more to the point. Usually someone else goes, hey James, why don't you do this? But I do like design. I like usability and user interaction design and the kinds of things where you take something that somebody interacts with. So that could be as simple as a fork, or as complicated as a nuclear power reactor or something like that. And you work on the design not so much to make it functional as to make it intuitive. It's kind of how I think about it. It's not quite that simple, but I think of it as, you know, if you pick up, say, a remote control like this, which is for the camera, and if I show you this, how many of these functions can you suss out immediately what they do? Yeah? Okay, you've got some labels on there to try and help you, but it's just a massive mash of buttons. Now, some of the different shapes of buttons help us work it out. So the different arrows here, that suggests directional functionality, and you know, you would kind of use some of your knowledge of remote controls and to kind of go, okay, well, this is probably going to be for using on a menu or what have you, which is correct. And I'd expect the one in the middle to be like the OK or enter button, because that's a what's the word for it? Begins with a C when it's the normal way of doing things. Can't remember. And then you've got these two long buttons. Well, I know it's for a video camera, so I would think maybe this is the zoom, and it is. And then you've got one button with a red label and a differently shaped button. It's got a little indent in it and it's circular. That is the stop and start button. So, okay, fair enough. And then you've got generic buttons. You've got differently shaped buttons saying previous and next and stuff. But it's you know, it didn't take me too long to work it out, but there's some stuff on here that I don't know really what it does. I mean, what does playlist do? I don't know. It must be something to do with the playlist. But meh. Anyway. So the idea is there anything you could do to the design of this to make it even more obvious so you could just pick it up and use it? And the idea is it's the kind of design where you forget is that there's a tool. You forget that you're dealing with a machine or a tool or something to help you get a job done, and you just do the job. And I really like it when I can just do the job, and I get very frustrated when for some reason or other I can't just do the job and I have to think about using the tool. So one example would be if I'm working on my computer and my computer has to make me wait. Do not like that. I have a very, very, very thin amount of patience when it comes to my computers. If I have to wait more than a second for something, then I'm not okay. Something's wrong. It's not good enough. Because a computer is a tool that's designed to do things very, very, very quickly. That's what it's there for. Everything a computer does, we could do manually, but it would be very slow. So a computer is all about doing things quickly. So if it's not being super quick, if it's not just serving up what I want it to serve up immediately, then it's not doing its job properly, and I have to stop and think about what is the computer doing, as opposed to reading a web page or writing a document or whatever. Yeah? So it's things like that. And a good example then, because I could talk about this a lot, I'm thinking this box of tissues. So this box of tissues comes with a little cardboard oval over the front, and it has a little thumb hole to one side. So you kind of immediately you just stick your finger in it and pull the cardboard out. You don't really stop and think about, is this supposed to be the front? It has what's called an affordance, which is this little finger hole, and it basically says, stick your finger in here! So you do, and all the perforations that you can see say, pull this cardboard out, and you do. And then underneath it, you've got a tissue, and you grab that tissue and you pull. And you go, okay, great. Done. I don't have to think about what's going on in the box. I just grab a tissue, and the box does the rest. Now that is really nice user interaction design. Now to make it do that, the tissues have to be folded in a particular way. And if, and this occasionally happens in a box of these tissues, the tissues get knocked over inside or moved or something somehow, then if you grab a tissue it just comes on its own, or you get all the tissues at once or something crazy like that. And then you have to stop and kind of think about what you're doing, and being me, I worked out how they fold them, and then I put the tissues back how they're meant to be, and they work again. But this is really, really beautifully done in terms of user interaction. You don't have to do anything. You just grab a tissue, and it's ready. You can take another one. Brilliant. Brilliant design. You're not thinking about, how do I get a tissue out of this box? You're not ferreting, and you don't even notice. Like, unless you're like me and a total nerd for these things, you don't even notice that it's doing it. You just go, I want a tissue, there's a box of tissues, and the next tissue is poking out, so you just grab a tissue. Yeah? So the things where you just use them without even having to think about it, that is really good design. And user interaction design specifically, as opposed to design for the function of the object, which also has to work, like the materials in the tissue, and the materials in the box, and all of that kind of thing. And all those elements of design will interact with each other to some extent, but my interest has always been on how you can just make it super, super straightforward to use stuff. So I would be interested in working in that area somehow. And as far as software is concerned, that's sort of very, very much similar to what my sister does at the moment. She's I think she's either a user experience designer or a user interface designer or something like that. Her title changes, and it depends on where she is as to what they actually get her to do. But she works in software and does that kind of thing with software, so that when you go to use a computer program, you don't sit there going, oh, what do I do with this? You go, right, okay, I want to, when you go to create a Word document, can you just open your word processor and start doing what you want to do? You write your title, or you start to jot down some notes or whatever. Or do you have to stop and think about what you're doing? Do you have to go, right now, oh, I need to make a new file and I need to da-da-da-da-da-da. All of those kind of things. And if you suddenly go, right, I want to be able to do, you know, this should be the title, or I want to move this bit of text or whatever. How you do that? Now, she doesn't work in word processing at all, but making websites accessible, easy to use, understandable, making sure they're helpful. So the kind of websites that you really like and that just seem to work, they're well-designed ones with user interaction, and the ones where you sort of bang your head against a table slightly and you maybe end up not using them very much, they're the ones that don't have very good user interaction. And I have examples of both in my head, but I'm not going to share those right now. So that would be, yeah, that's something I'm really intrigued by or interested in. I don't know if I'd ever work in that area because I don't think it's an easy one to get into. I think it would require some serious work to get into that line of work. It would require some serious effort to obtain work in that area. And that's not something I'm looking at right now. But if down the line opportunities arose, then I certainly would be interested in it. And there is a definite overlap between that and the work I'm doing in tech editing at the moment, because and again, I can think of examples, but I'm keeping my gob shut. There's some patterns where you pick up the pattern and you immediately know where to look, what to read, what to do, what you're going to need, and you just pick it up and you feel easy, at ease with it, and you feel like it's going to be easy to follow the pattern. You know, there's good diagrams, there's good clear information, the way the instructions are laid out makes sense, so you can just read it and it makes sense. There's no jumping around, there's no confusing bits, there's nothing making you going, what does that mean? And then 3 paragraphs later going, oh, this is referring to that, and this is, and da-da-da-da. Yeah, it all works out. And so some of what I do as part of tech editing, as well as the mathematics and the accuracy of things, is also to look at it from the point of view of how well does this read? How is somebody who doesn't know this off by heart already going to be approaching this, and does it make sense? Can somebody just pick this up and with the appropriate level of knowledge required for this pattern get on with it, whether that be a complete beginner or if it's an advanced pattern that may be more assumed knowledge. But, you know, what can somebody do with it? And I really like that side of it as well. So I'm already doing it a little bit with tech editing. There we go. Right, so the only other thing to go over with you guys is the Lanitium X Machina giveaway! So, of the 3 skeins, excuse me, crinkle crinkle, 1 has already been claimed. Lothlorien. I'm still waiting for its new owner to get in touch with me, so if you haven't watched the last episode, jump back and watch the giveaway for that to see if it was you. And then I have another giveaway draw to do today for one of these 2 beautiful skeins. We have Warlock and Star Trek Into Darkness in the glitter sock base, which is 70% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 5% stellina. And it's beautiful! La, 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 la. Shimmery, shimmery goodness. It always shows up on the video as much more shimmery than it does on my viewfinder. On my viewfinder, it kind of looks a little shimmery. On the video, when I actually look at it, watch the video back, it's always like, sparkles! In real life, it is sparkly! Kind of somewhere between the 2. So, the only thing left to do with this is to do the draw. I haven't done it yet. I always wait until I record it, and then I just pause, draw it, and then come back to you guys. So I shall go and quickly find out who the next person is to get a skein of Lanitium X Machina yarn. So the big reveal can happen now, and I have updated my list of entries. So just a reminder to hold suspense a little longer, you can still enter for the final prize drawing, which will be in the next episode. Everybody who enters the thread gets an entry into the prize draw. Once you're drawn, you're no longer eligible even for another skein. So last episode's winner has been taken out, but everybody who entered before last episode is still in the running. And I only had 3 new entries since last episode, so please do get your name in the hat if you would like a chance to win the last skein. I'll talk about more of that in a moment. However, I did a draw of all the entries, and the winner was the Binge Knitter. What an awesome name. And a beautiful little, I'm looking at your avatar here of a little, is it amigurumi chicken? It looks very cool. So thank you very much. As always, the entries for this giveaway have been absolutely brilliant. It's been lovely to see that Nia has been able to actually engage with some of you guys about your feedback for her website and her yarn, so that's been fantastic. I think it's always lovely when we can sort of offer something back for the awesome giveaway free yarn, because that's always lovely to get. So, I've just realised I don't know your name, so I'm going to click through and see Tori. Hi Tori. If you want to get in touch with me on Ravelry, just send me a PM or what have you with your contact details. Then I can post you your preference. Now, your first choice has already gone. I apologise, but you were beaten to it. So I've gone with your second choice, which is the Star Trek Into Darkness. This gorgeous skein of ooey goodness. So this is all blues, very dark blues, almost black, through into the light patches of blue with the sparkly goodness. Absolutely beautiful. And the aptly named Star Trek Into Darkness. So this skein and Lost Lorien have now been drawn for. That means there is still, however, Warlock, this gorgeous collection of beautiful greens, is ready to be snapped up next episode. So if you want to stand a chance of winning this, and you haven't already made your way over to the group in Ravelry, there is a Lanitium X Machina giveaway thread in the Dancing Geek podcast Ravelry group. Both of those, the group itself and the thread, will be linked in the show notes below this video. And yeah, all you have to do is go and visit Lanitium X Machina's new shop, have a good look around, and offer a decent amount of feedback. So what I said was I was kind of looking for like a good paragraph of text. No, yeah, it's really pretty, can I have that yarn now please? But actually kind of, this was interesting, I didn't like this, I didn't understand what this was about, it would be nice if this, da-da-da-da-da-da, yada yada yada, yeah? Things like that. You can have a look at some of the other entries for inspiration if you need to, but do please offer your original feedback. So yes, one more draw to do of this gorgeous yarn, and then our Lanitium X Machina giveaway will be complete, so this is your last chance to get in there, guys. But yes, the thread in the Rav group, if you're not a member of the group, you will need to join as well, so that I can see you're in there, okay? And then post in the thread, and we will see if you guys get drawn. But yes, if you have already entered, as I've said several times, you don't need to do anything. You are still entered for the final draw. It's just the 2 now who have already been drawn who are not eligible. So that is everything that I was going to do today. Hopefully this one has been a bit of a shorter episode. My intention was just to kind of bang a quick something out, but you know me, when I get talking, all of a sudden hours have passed and I haven't realised. That's it then, and it's time for me to say goodbye. So thank you very much for watching, and as always, I love you guys lots. Cheers for now. Bye!